afternoon. Welcome to the special meeting of the Public Safety Committee. It's Tuesday, December 8th, 2020. I'm Councilwoman Monica Briggs, and the Chair of Public Safety, Mr. Clerk, if you would please call the...
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Present.
Councilmember Buscaino. Councilmember Rue.
Present.
Councilmember Lee. All right, Madam Chair.
Okay. Could you please announce the call-in information for members of the public wishing to speak on today's agenda item?
Yes. Okay. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the item listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-586-7607. Once again, call 1-669-254-5252, and the meeting ID is 161-586-7607, and then press the pound key. Press the pound key again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Thank you. And if you can please read item 1.
Item number 1, Board of Fire Commissioners report relative to proposed decision and recommendation in regard to the 2019 brush clearance assessment appeals.
Thank you. And so, colleagues, this is a brush clearance hearing that we have. We have 8 individuals in the queue appealing, and we do have our fire department personnel here to answer questions specific to each appeal that is presented to the committee. Chief Hayden, are you there? No. Chief Hayden is there. Graham?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Patrick Hayden is on the line. However, Captain Nassour and Inspector 2, Paul Terrace, will be performing the appeals. I'm here to assist and answer any questions that may be pertinent and could potentially help in this matter.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who is it that's there from the department?
We have Captain Brian Nassour and Paul Terrace, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you. So now the committee will hear from appellants, review the assessments, and consider only newly discovered or additional evidence offered by the property owners and make recommendations based on the information that is presented. Appellants have been notified in advance of their right to appear before this committee to appeal decisions by the Board of Fire Commissioners. Before we move into public comment, I would like to call on the fire department to provide an overview of the brush clearance requirements and the appeals process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, thank you for the time, for allowing us to have this meeting. Chair, I'd like to describe the process. First, we hold an annual brush clearance on an annual basis, which is always an ongoing basis throughout the city of Los Angeles for all city parcels that would fit in the criteria of the very high severity zone. In the beginning, we sent out a mailer starting at the beginning of February, or February, March. We sent out a mailer to all private owners in the parcels within the zone itself, describing what we're going to be looking at for the brush clearance, as well as when we're going to be coming out. Respectively, in 2019, we came out in the beginning of May, going into June when we do our primary or initial inspections, which we allow 20 days if they do end up failing, which is they get notice for a non-compliance fee of $29. When we come back out there again on a re-inspection after 20 days, on the 21st day, we will look at their property again, and if they pass, then they're cleared by owner. If they fail, they get basically another non-compliance fee of at that time $432. Once we review that file, they get another additional 20 days to become compliant. If they don't become compliant, we post their parcel with a notice, as well as do a door knocker letting them know that the fire department was on their property, reviewing their parcel is in violation, and documenting exactly what particular issues they have on their parcel. From that, after we give them 30 additional days to be cleared, we will go back out there and take pictures and put them in the contract, which will have one of the 5 approved contractors that are approved by the Los Angeles Fire Department to go out to their property and clear their properties. During that time, the inspectors of the brush clearance unit, as well as the contractors, will take pictures before as well as after, ensuring that the property was properly cleared, not only to the LAFD standards, but also to the standards for public safety. From there, they will be assessed of whatever the value of the contractors assess their work at, as well as being charged with an administrative fee of $1,308, added to the total of the $29, as well as the $508. From there, they have an option through the appeals process. If they feel that any given time after they receive their notice, they can appeal the process, paying a $50 fee to the finance, the accounting department, allowing us to hear the appealing officer. From there, the appealing officer is a mediator that we have hired, that both Inspector Terrace, as well as myself, and another inspector by the name of Gabriel Orona will be conducting multiple interviews to hire a hearing officer. The 2 hearing officers that we have appointed in the past 2 years have been prior mitigators, as well as they're both lawyers. For one who works for the city of Manhattan Beach, who was a city council member and understands the due process of city due process. The other mitigator is a working lawyer who works as well as a mitigator on the side, and we have hired her again for 2019 as well as 2020. During that time, the citizens, if they feel that they have they've been wronged, they can fill out a appeal, and they plead their case to the appeal officer. And whatever the appeal officer, as well as Inspector Terrace here, will bring the case to the citizens, and they can plead their case. If it's denied, then we are set forth into we put into a package given to the Board of Fire Commission, and they agree on the findings that we have found on what they have been assessed at. And from there, we have one last option of where we are today, the Public Safety Committee, to let them voice their concerns, as well as why they should not or should feel that they should have their fees reassessed.
Thank you. And just to be clear, there was also an extension given the pandemic for much of these.
That is for 2020, Madam Chair, not for 2019. This is just for the 2019.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So, colleagues, just a reminder of the process and how, again, we're looking for new information. And so with that, Felicia, we'll go ahead and allow people in.
Caller with the last 4 digits, 86666. Press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, speaker, please state your name, your property address, and give us a moment for us to start your time. Hello?
Next caller with the last number, 3434. Press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
Hello?
Hi. Can you please state your name and your property address?
Thank you. 1218 Tellum Drive, Pacific Palisades.
Okay, give us a moment.
That is page 45.
That would be found on page 74 and 75 of the PDF document that Board of Fire Commission forwarded.
Page 45.
Committee members.
Committee members, this is page 45 in the appeals booklet, page 45.
Okay, and your name?
Howard Robinson.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I am going to ask you today, I am asking you to continue this assessment item related to my property. The proposed assessment report included in the Board of Fire Commissioners listed as is listed on page 74 and 75, as I said. Excuse me. My reason for the reason for the continuance request is to give the staff of my council member, Mike Bonin, time to work with LAFD to resolve this matter. At issue is whether the city's brush clearance contractor actually performed the work required to meet LAFD's brush clearance requirements. It did not. I have new evidence obtained after my initial appeal hearing, which I emailed to the provided email address. The evidence shows that the city-hired contractor cleared less than 15% of my property. They spent only 2 hours on the site. They charged the city $9,500, which, after administrative fees, resulted in a bill to me in the amount of $10,812. In fact, months after the city's crew supposedly cleared the lot, I paid a total of $9,800 to 2 private contractors to do the work. This included removing dead trees and removing large piles of branches and brush measuring 20 feet by 8 feet by 40 feet. These hazards could not possibly have still been present in the summer of this year if the city-hired crew had already completed the work properly in January of this year. I have canceled checks and photographs showing the before and after condition of the work completed by my own private crews. I have been in contact with staff from Mike Bonin's office, and they have agreed to work with LAFD on this issue. Therefore, I ask for a continuance at this time to allow them to work with LAFD to resolve the matter.
Okay, thank you, sir. Colleagues, Mr. Bonin's office has made the request of having this item discussed further with the fire department, given the new evidence that the appellant has presented. However, we do only have until Tuesday, so the responsibility of both the appellant and Mr. Bonin's office would be to have it resolved before this item comes to council on Tuesday. Fire, would you provide some additional information on this particular case?
In regarding Mr. Robinson's property, we did have the LAFD private contractor go up to his property. They did clear everything they were supposed to up to the 200 feet of his property. What Mr. Robinson is including is that he's alluding that he cleared beyond the 200 feet, that is beyond the respective brush clearance that the LAFD was required. However, in the appeal that he came to our office to our appeal officer, for committee members on page 45, second paragraph under proposed decision and recommendation, the first line of that second paragraph where the appealant confirmed that he did not clear the partial and the brush clearance in 2019, but did clear the brush in 2020. And that is the reason why the fire department stands at their decision of the fees of $10,812.
Okay. Well, colleagues, again, I know Mr. Bonin has requested this. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I know that Mr. Bonin has requested, the staff has requested an opportunity to have that conversation with the fire department in light of what they suggested additional evidence. My recommendation is that the action stay short of the department or the conversation coming to council in advance of council presenting any new information that the department might honor. So they have until Tuesday to resolve this matter.
I would support that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Are we clear with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, terrific. And so with that, we can go ahead and, Mr. Briggs, please call the roll.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
Councilmember.
sorry, well, we take them all at the end, correct?
Excuse me?
Do we take them all at the end?
Yeah, we probably should get them all at the end. That would be the,
Perfect. Okay. So that is my recommendation on this particular case. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Next caller with the last four digits, 8580, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
Caller ending in 4220, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and your property address.
Hi, my name is Sonia Alfaro. My property address is 3125 North Eva Terrace, Los Angeles, California, 90031.
To the Public Safety Committee, that's page 52 in the books, page 52.
Yes, got it. Okay. Ms. Alfaro, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so I received an invoice in 2019 regarding the brush clearance, contracting fees, and the 2019 clearance administrative fees. I currently have 2 lots on the site. These are 2 empty lots, and I understand that it is my duty to keep the lot clean, clear the brush, and trim any trees off my lot. Both of my parcels are cleared at the same time, about 4 times a year, just because I don't want my workers to do additional hours. We began the appealing process once one bill came because one of the parcels cleared inspection while the other one did not. Since we received the second, we never received the second inspection notice. So we weren't, because we saw that the first inspection for one of the lots passed, we assumed that the second one did too. And I've lived at my current address for 30 years, and I do know that mail gets lost all the time. As I also heard when I received the last bill, the hearing that was scheduled, I also wasn't able to appear because I never got a letter telling me when the hearing was going to happen. Again, this is also our first time that I have been invoiced for not clearing my parcel. I'm very diligent and make sure that my cleaning crew does the job as indicated. And I also submitted my invoices of my cleaning crew as well as pictures of the lot being cleared, and apparently that wasn't enough. So I wanted to know that, I also heard the fire department earlier during this call saying that they do take before and after pictures. I called the Los Angeles Fire Department to see if I can view them, and they only sent me 2 pictures, which then I notified them that wasn't my lot, which I guess it's kind of an error on my part where we've been clearing our lot, but we've been, the width of it, we've been clearing a second lot as opposed to the length of it. And I called the city as well to make sure to get someone out there to find my property lines. And due to the urgency, I actually recently hired a person to measure my property lines so that this error does not occur again. So that's why I'm keeping the bill, because I've cleared more than half of a lot at my expense, and I do pay this for my lot to be cleared multiple times in the year. So I do want to know if my fees could be reassessed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Alfaro. Mr. Nisor?
Right now, with the knowing that this is her first time, being that she's been in our basically non-compliance issue, I do agree on negating on the administrative fee of the $1,312, but still keeping the cost clearance for the brush contractor of $750.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? My apologies.
Yes, ma'am. Knowing of the current circumstances that we are with the pandemic and everything else, the administrative fee, being that we did some research, this is her first time in with non-compliance. I do agree with negating on the administrative fees of $1,312, but still showing her the cost of $750 clearance for the brush contractor before the reimbursement for the city.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. I think that's a reasonable recommendation, and I support that. Colleagues? Colleagues, any objections? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Alfaro.
Next caller ending in 7121, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
What the hell they decided to do?
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
Next caller ending in 5502, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller. Can you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Gila Mover. I'm calling, there are no address, but I'm calling regarding lots APN 55560350011, 012, and 014. Those are all lots that are.
What's your name now?
My name is Gila Moverman. I'm the owner of Narinvest, these lots.
Okay, that is page 80, 80, 81, and 82.
Okay. Ma'am, you have 3 minutes to present any new information.
So after receiving the original non-compliance notices, we had the work done. We had hired the contractor to clear the brush. We had the work done on June 24th, trying to get it as close as possible to the date of inspection. We were under the assumption that clear by owner inspection reports would be filed, as we have several lots. These are not the only lots. We have 16 lots in the same area, and they have been filed for the other lots. For some reason, haven't been filed for these two. We've never received further correspondence until March 6th, which was the reinspection fee, the brush clearance, March 6th of 2020, when we received reinspection fees, brush clearance, contracting and administration fee totaling over $25,000. We appealed by mail. We sent the invoices, the pictures of the cleared lots. We have more pictures and can obviously obtain, if needed, affidavits from the person that cleared, the contractor who cleared the brush. We use the same contractor for years. We have never had such an assessment. Sometimes we have the original $29 assessment, but it's the same contractor who's been going out there for over 10 years clearing the brush, and we haven't received anything until into the 2020 year with all of these over $25,000 assessment. I believe we have proven we cleared it. We hired the contractor. We sent pictures of the cleared work. We have way more pictures that we can send if needed, but I feel this is extremely excessive for the two lots, extremely excessive, both in the sense that we have done the job, paid for the job, and the job was done, and for the fact that the amount of money that's being assessed is outrageous.
Thank you, ma'am. Brian?
Yes, ma'am. As we were doing further investigating with her property itself, looking at the totality of it, I feel very comfortable in keeping the costs on parcel number 555-603-5001 of $19,500. That's the cost of clearance for the brush clearance, as well as the other, all the costs, I should say, on the cost of the clearance for the private contractor, totaling of $28,500 will still be held, but waiving only 2 of the 3 administrative fees, knowing the fact that she has 3 parcels, and due to this time, so a total of $29,812 she still will be assessed at on behalf of the fire department.
Madam Chair, this is Patrick Hayden. If I might add, as I was listening, I did not necessarily hear any new evidence. Given the circumstances, I think providing some relief to the administrative fee is most appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. I would concur. Mr. Ruth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Everett recommended 2 out of the 3 administrative fees get waived. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
In these difficult times, how could we waive all 3 administrative fees? I mean, the charge will still remain, but the administrative fees, the third one, I was thinking we could waive that as well.
It's our discretion, Mr. Ruth.
That's what I would like to recommend or amend.
I'm okay. I'm comfortable with that. Colleagues? Seeing no objection, we will go ahead and reduce the amount of the eliminate the administrative fees associated with the 3 property locations and confirm the amount as modified.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Next caller ending in 0393, press *6 to unmute yourself. Next caller ending in 5436, press *6 to unmute. Hi caller, please state your name and your property address. Next caller ending in 1403, press *6 to unmute.
Hello, Mommy. All items, please.
Hold on, please.
Yes. Hello, Mommy.
You have 1 minute.
Oh, thank you so much. I have good news for your city attorney. You're being sued right now
You need
for
to stay on
something
top of
called
the
your administrative fees. Stop fucking interrupting. The administrative fees have to be proportional to the cost of the clearance, or it violates the 8th Amendment. Did you know that? No, I didn't know. Let's look at Desert Candle. Cost of clearance, $95. Administrative fee, $1,312. The administrative fee is disproportional to the cost of clearance and violates the 8th Amendment. Cruel and unusual punishment. So let's waive all of the administrative fees on all these cases, or we're going to get sued. Anyway, you're all no good scumbags except David Rue. David Rue, you do a great job. I wish you would have won.
Your time is up.
Next caller ending in 2240, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please give your name and address.
Yes, hello. Have I accidentally called into the special meeting of the Public Safety Committee?
Okay.
Or is this the regular meeting, or is this the special meeting?
This is still the special meeting, so we're still wrapping up. So if you
all right. Well, I mean, I have a question for the committee about why they failed to agendize Mike Bonan's motion to decline pursuing criminal penalties against protesters, but I guess I'll wait for the regular meeting.
Thank you.
What's that?
Next caller ending in 0899, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
I'm sorry. I'm like the caller before. I'm trying to call in to the regular meeting. So do we stay in the queue or what?
Yeah, please stay in the queue.
Okay, I'm going to put my hand up again. Just know that that's I'm not okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Caller ending in 8919, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Ending in 8919, star 6, please.
Sorry, this is a broken record. Yeah, this is sound like a broken record, but I'm also here for the regular meeting, so I'll wait.
Next caller ending in 8408, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and your property address.
Yeah, you know what? Broken record again. I'm also here to talk about the Mike Bonin motion that's been pending in this committee since June. So I guess I'll just stay on line.
Yeah, so can you, hang on one sec, guys. We got to
wait since June. We can wait a little longer, right? Woo!
Callers, if you are not part of the special meeting, we have to get through the appellants for brush clearance cases. If we could please ask you to call back in about 5 minutes so we can conclude the special meeting, because we're going to be holding up the queue with the appellants.
Next caller ending in 8580, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and your property address.
Press star again. Caller ending in 6068, if you are an appellant, please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and your property address.
Oh, sorry, I'm just here for general public comment as well, but wanted to state that Monica Rodriguez takes over $90,000 from the LAP.
Caller ending in 8919, press star 6 to unmute yourself if you are an appellant.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
Caller ending in 0393, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and your property address.
Caller ending in 1141, press star 6 to unmute yourself if you are an appellant. Caller ending in 5436, press star 6 to unmute yourself if you are an appellant. Caller ending in 6068, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 6704, press star 6 to unmute.
Hello?
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 Hi,
Yes.
can you state your name and your property address?
My name is Kramer with the property address 11751 Zelda Avenue, Granada Hills, California 91344.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Your name again, sorry?
Wait, I'm sorry, I could not hear. Was that directed to me?
Your name, yes, your name, I'm sorry, your name again, please?
The name is under Stuart Kramer. I'm his son, Matt Kramer.
There it is.
Calling that page 30?
Page 30. Yes, page 30, committee members.
Yes, page 30.
Okay, caller, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah. First, I'd like to request if we get a continuance of this hearing. I am not familiar with this process at all. It was highly confusing, especially as to what is new evidence and old evidence, and what evidence was submitted at the hearing, because there was no hearing as noted in the letter before the Board of Fire Commissioners. And then the report has zero information that was provided by me at the time of this hearing, and it's unclear to me if the committee has any of the information that I presented. It certainly doesn't have the videos that I'd taken, and technically that wouldn't be new, so I wasn't sure if I should submit it or not. I'm happy to submit those. I just didn't know. And I guess I better move on quickly if it's just 3 minutes. There's a lot of issues, but I guess I should just say one of the most pressing is that at that hearing, which I requested to be recorded but was denied that request, I believe it was Mr. Terrace who was there, who in front of the hearing officer represented that any damages that were caused by the fire department or the contracted crew, we could recoup by making a claim with the city. That would have been true, but at the time Mr. Terrace made that representation, it was not true because the statute of limitations had already expired. Thus, his statement, I fear, played a role in influencing the, I guess it's the hearing officer who was there, because it simply wasn't true that at the time we could make for damages, and there were damages, significant damages, that I certainly outlined in the hearing and presented evidence of, but did not show up at all in the report and proposed decision. And I have video of the fire department expressly stating that those damages would be discussed, as part of the appeals process. But an independent person looking at this, and I imagine if that's what the committee is doing, they would have no idea because it's nowhere mentioned. in the report. And again, that's documented on video, which I'd be happy to supply. Fences were broken. Expensive fish were killed as a result of actions, despite warnings. And on the day of the brush clearance, it was represented that these matters would be taken up on the appeal. At that hearing, the hearing officer stated that those matters would be considered. No guarantee of the
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Your time is up. Mr. Nassar?
Yes, Madam Chair. As with the fire department, we're going to stand with the total assessment amount due to the fact that there was no new evidence that was brought to the fire department's attention, along with the damages that we suspected that we or our contractors had provided, that no new evidence was or substantiated to us. So we're going to hold true to the total assessment amount of $31,262.
Thank you. Colleagues?
Hello?
Seeing no objection, I'd like to make a recommendation of actually reducing the administrative fee. However, given the cost of the work that was conducted on that site, I think it's appropriate to honor that part of the assessment. So I'd like to recommend the reduction in the amount of the administrative fees and confirm as modified. And go to the next caller.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair, it's Captain Brian DeSoar. You said you want to reflect on the last one. You want to redact the administrative fee?
Correct.
Okay.
Would that be eliminate the fee altogether or just reduce it by a certain dollar amount?
Reduce it altogether to
Thank you.
$13.12.
Thank you.
Callers, if you're, hopefully you're listening. We're trying to get through the appellant for brush clearance. If you're an appellant, if you would please press *9 so that we can identify you and bring you into this portion of the meeting. Caller ending in 866, ending in 8666. Press star to unmute yourself. Hi, caller, please state your name and property address.
Hi. The property address is 4731 East Huntington Drive, North Los Angeles.
What's your name, sir?
Susie O, but I'm speaking on behalf of Susie O. I'm her son, Chris Kim.
Got it. Page 55, colleagues. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so hi. We got a notice of brush clearing last year, 2 times, and each time we hired our own cleaning crew and cleaned it. But nonetheless, they said the LAFD didn't think that we are not compliant to the order, and we weren't really sure because we went to the site and there was hardly any changes after they cleared it. So sorry about my English because it's not my native. And so we went to the site and it wasn't cleared. And then we request a photo from the LAFD, see what they done. And then we realized that what they have cleaned is not our property, but actually our neighbor's property. And we try to make a statement. And then on the appeal form, we sent our new evidence to the email address that you provide, LAFDbrush, lacd.org, 4 days ago. I'm not sure if you or the committee members have seen our new evidence, but if you read our new evidence, you can clearly see that actually I drew a borderline where our property and our neighbor property is. And then most of the work done is actually on our neighbor's property. So before you make any final decision, please read the email that I sent, and then you can easily. I try to provide both official pictures and the new pictures that I took with the exactly where the borderline is, and then you can clearly see that it's actually done. Most the work is done on our neighbor's property. So we'll try to make an appeal this time to give us a way for the assessment. A total of $3,912.
Okay.
And then also my mom, Susie, she won't able to make the court this year because she broke her arm like a few days before the court appearance, and then also due to the pandemic. That's why we did not go to court this year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nassour?
Yes, Madam Chair. And for the committee's understanding, what the LAFD uses within our system itself, we have a GPS that we use, and we can be within 3 feet of the property line that is calculated, that's reported to the LA County Assessor's Office through LUPAM. So with we not only verify it through the inspector, but also through GPS. But in light of today's pandemic, and with his assessment of knowing that he's only been in non-compliance for the first time with his, or mom's been non-compliant, I do agree on just waiving just the administrative fee of the $1,312, but still keeping the cost of the city contractor $2,600 more.
I'd agree with that recommendation, and I'd like to recommend that we reduce the amount as indicated and confirm as modified.
And please read the email before make the final decision, because if you read the email, see the photo, I'll draw the borderline exactly where our property line is. And then
the recommendation of the committee is to reduce, so we're going to reduce the cost of or eliminate the cost of the administrative fee, which is $1,300, and we'll assess the cost of the actual clearance. Okay? And that's the order.
Oh, crap. Son of a bitch. Can't believe I did that. No, I always hit the wrong button because it's too confusing. Seriously, it looks like the sound thing, and then... Do I have to do the Zoom bridge and all that?
One more time, if you end in 8580, press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address.
Next caller calling in on a private number, press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and your property address. Unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is James Schneider. I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good.
What's your property address?
Yes, my property address is 9267 Cordell Drive, and the APN number, if it helps, is number 4392-009-012.
What's the name of the property owner?
James H. Schneider, SCHNEIDER.
Got it.
Thank you.
41 on the book, page 41.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Schneider, you have 3 minutes to present new evidence. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to everyone. I'm requesting a one-time waiver of the fee assessment levied against my property at the address I just mentioned. Due to the COVID-related financial distress that most of us are experiencing, this is a first-time offense for me, if you can call it that. And as such, I want to let you know for sure that, first and foremost, I've been very proactive working with the brush clearance unit, and the property has been fully restored and brought into compliance. That's the most important thing. But after losing my appeal I learned that notices were never mailed to my actual address of record used by the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office for sending my property taxes and all other important notices. Instead, they were mailed to the property address where I do not live, so I never received those. I did confirm with the Los Angeles City Brush Clearance Unit office and their representatives that the records can have a lag time that can take up to a year to catch up with the LA County address of records. So this lag time still is not caught up with me. But as a result, what should have been a $29 fee back in 2019, without my knowledge, escalated to where it is today at nearly $3,000. The actual dollar amount, I believe, is $2,862. So regardless, I accept my responsibility. I take brush clearance very seriously. And although there is some disagreement over my choice of the drought-tolerant plants, I have asked for and been granted kindly a time frame by Captain Nasor to visit the property together in the future to ensure that it remains in full compliance. However, where I am today, like so many people, I'm finding myself having financial hardship with no significant income since COVID crisis began to pay these fees. So my sole income outside my Social Security is dependent on the rent that comes from this single property, which has been reduced to less than half as even the tenant is out of work and they're finding it hard to pay the rent. Fortunately, I was able to recently secure a home equity loan, and that's allowed me to pay my property taxes just this week, along with my back mortgage payments. So my tenant and I are working together to ensure that they don't get evicted. I'm working hard to keep them there. But I need some assistance and some help from you guys here. This has never happened before. It's a first-time thing for me. And, you know, to help me with these fees. So that's my appeal. Your consideration of my appeal is not only greatly appreciated, but greatly needed. I think that's all the time I have, and I'm hoping that you understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I do agree in speaking with Mr. Schneider and working up the resolution. Unfortunately, with the proposed decision on 2019, he was emailed the notice, and as stated on the second paragraph on page 41 under the proposed decision. But knowing what the circumstances in light of today's pandemic and speaking with them what the corrections of what we're going to have in the future is that I do go for the waiving the administrative fee of $1,312, but still, unfortunately, still having the homeowner still accrue the cost for the brush clearance of the clearance itself.
Thank you. I agree with that reduction and recommendation, and we'll confirm the assessment as modified without objection. And callers, we still have one individual. We just want to make sure if there are any individuals that are calling in for brush clearance related matters, please select *9 so that we can call you in the queue and conclude this special meeting.
Next caller ending in 8580, press *6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can we get your name and property address, please?
Okay, this is Ibrahim Sumi. Property address is 869 Linda, Florida Drive.
Page 53.
Ibrahim Sumi.
Thank you.
Committee members, that is page 37, page 37.
Hello, can I talk?
Yeah, caller, you have 3 minutes to present new evidence. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Thank you. Well, dear members, I did. This is regarding 869 Linda, Florida Drive, which was a vacant lot, but it is under construction now. We brush cleared it in May 25th, 2019, and then we had inspection by fire department inspector, and they said I don't know why they thought that it was not cleared. And then they hired the contractor with the contractor to clear it in October. Definitely between May and October, that's like 5-6 months, and many things could have happened there, and the brush clear may look unclear. Anyway, we did clear it, and we do have an invoice from our contractor that cleared it. And at the same time, when I went to the appeal meeting, I did not have the pictures from the cleared after May 25th, which yesterday I got it. 2 days ago I got the picture and I added to my document and I emailed it to Mr. Adam Lidd. So I have, once again, I'm the manager of another 2 properties, Summit Ridge and another one on Stradilla, and I do this every year and I clean it and I have no problem with the other one and this with the other 2, and this one we have cleaned it and we showed the evidence of the invoice as well as the picture. And one last thing, that even if we pay $2,000 to brush clear this lot, but it seems that fire department is spending money from owner's account and paying $15,450. And after that, I went there. Nothing was. I think there was not much of a change. Our contractor knows the fire department code, and they have complied with fire department code. So I request that to be waived because we believe that is not fair at all, and that's not reasonable. Even we have not seen anyone, but even if they have done that, that should not be $15,000. Okay, I have $2,000. You want to charge me $2,000? That is fine.
Thank you,
so
sir.
I request that to be waived.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nassour?
Yes, ma'am. In regards of this parcel, we don't dispute that he did do the work prior, but in living in the very high severity zone, brush clearance is an ongoing throughout the year, continuous basis. That being said, we're going to hold true to the total assessment of $16,762 because when our contractors went out there and showing their evidence, there was a significant amount of brush, both light as well as moderate amount of brush that had been cleared for this particular parcel itself.
Yeah, the images don't look like they were it didn't appear to have new evidence to me in the images. So I'll confirm the original assessment, and we'll take the next caller. Next caller with a private number, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Caller, please state your name and your property address. Private number, please state your name and your property address. Press *6 to unmute yourself.
Yoga
Final call for those appellants. Let's press *9. Okay. It looks like that concludes any callers for any appellants related to the brush clearance matter. So, Mr. Lidd, would you please call the roll on the recommendation? Did we got one more? All right. Excuse me, we just got one more. Hold on.
All right.
Caller with the last digit 0899, press *6 to unmute yourself.
No, I'm simply trying. No, I'm just trying to get in. You said you were done with your call, so I hit the button. We've all been waiting to talk. So,
yeah, we're wrapping up.
If I had,
thank you.
Okay, wait a second.
Okay. All right. So, colleagues, that concludes all the items related to. That concludes the items related to brush clearance matters. Mr. Clerk wanted to adopt the recommendations that were made during this committee, and
very well. Okay. One element for clarity on the third appeal from a, was that sustained, or did we reduce the administrative, excuse me, second one, Alfaro, that one didn't quite come in clear. Did we sustain it or reduce? Excuse me?
We reduced the administrative fee.
Thank you, very well. All right, in that case, want me to read the roll then, Madam Chair?
Please.
Okay. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino? Affirmed with a nod. Councilmember Rue?
Aye.
And Councilmember Lee is not here.
Can we help Mr. Buscaino out here?
Yes, count that as an aye vote.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you, colleagues. That concludes today's brush clearance hearing and the special meeting, and we will adjourn and move into our regular public safety committee meeting.
Thank you,
Very good. We are now in the regular meeting.
Okay, colleagues, and we have to check Mr. Buscaino. Are you still muted, Joe? Okay. Val, can you check his, okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting for Thursday, December 8th, 2020. I'm Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez, Chair of Public Safety. Mr. Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Present.
Councilmember Buscaino. I can see him on the screen. Councilmember Rue.
Yeah. Present.
And Councilmember Lee.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino, we're going to try and figure out how to get you the ability to unmute yourself, and we're checking with ICA. So Val.
Yeah, he's shaking his head. He's very, very much engaged. But
yeah, no, he can hear us. He just can't unmute himself. Okay. Mr. Clerk, I do know we have individuals that clearly know how to call in public comment because they're in the queue, but if you would please announce the call-in information for members of the public who wish to speak on today's agenda.
Yes. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161586.
So, you know, your baby's only is due just in 3 months.
7,
March,
6,
right?
0,
Middle of March?
7. Once again, the number is 1-669-254-5252, and meeting ID number is 161-586-7607, and then press the pound key. Press the pound key again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press star 9 to request to speak.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and take general public comment. Back to the caller ending in 0899, press star 6 to mute. Hi, caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
My name is Stacy Dawson Stearns. I'd like to speak on item 2, 3 in general public comment.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. So this appointment of Mr. William Briggs to the Board of Police Commissioners, I believe that the mayor has proven himself time and again to be incompetent in establishing who should be sitting on the Board of Police Commissioners. It's the most inept and futile and ridiculous group of people that I've ever seen in my life. They have not responded to anything that's going on. They listen to the same crap that Moore says time and time again, as if we're not living in a state of emergency. Okay? So I think it's time for this body, even though all of the meetings happen at the same time, it's really up to you to learn what they're saying about you in their meetings. They say that they deflect all responsibility for the LAPD to City Council. So that's something that you should be aware of, Councilmember Rodriguez. They are pointing the finger at you. You guys are the ones to blame. They apparently have no power. So I think that you need to speak with Garcetti and talk to him about the fact that he can't just remove people without saying why and then appoint new people. We really should start seeing resumes of these people before, because so far there's not a single qualified human being sitting on that commission. I'll move on to the LAPD verbal report about the impact of the proposed budget reductions, which is a big fat lie. And I hope that Joey Buckets can hear me. It's astonishing to me that this body is incapable of recognizing that there aren't any cuts happening. There are no cuts happening to the LAPD. So all of this crying, all this saying, oh, we've got to call 911 and no one's going to come and save you. That's a bunch of fear-mongering. This guy is the king of carrying forth the propaganda and the rhetoric into this council chamber. I suggest you all do your homework instead of letting Buckets do it for you. He's giving you a cheat sheet that is filled with lies. Lastly, and most importantly, I don't understand why Mike Bonin put a motion in June to request that the city attorney decline pursuing criminal and financial penalties against those protesting in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Why hasn't that come before this chamber? Because people are getting charged every day, because guess what? Protests are happening every day, even though y'all continue to pretend like they're not. They're innocent people who are actually, they're using their rights, the First Amendment constitutional rights, to peacefully protest. And the times when it's turning violent is when the cops attack them. Just like this weekend on Sunday, when an elected official of the city of Los Angeles was wrongfully arrested and charged with a felony, which is total and utter complete bullshit, and that needs to be dropped. I'm talking about Jamie Penn, but there's numbers and numbers and numbers of good people of Los Angeles who are being charged with crimes, when actually the crimes that should be charged should be against LAPD. But we know that there's no oversight, so that's a little bit difficult. Thank you very much. Your time is up.
Hi, do you read me, Madam Chair?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Thank you. Buckets is back. Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield my time.
Thank you. Next caller ending in 5436, press star 6 to unmute yourself. Ending in 5436.
Yes, I actually have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question of clarification on a motion?
You have, please, you have either what items you want to speak on and your name, please.
Okay, I'll speak on item 3 and general public comment.
Okay, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, it was really disappointing in the regular city council meeting today to hear Joey Buckets talk about how after months and months of Black Lives Matter protests demanding defunding of the police, how Joey Buckets cynically says, oh, if you cut policing, it'll be policing in black and brown neighborhoods. Joey, don't try and do that. That's total bullshit, and everyone sees right through it. To move on to my general public comment, I want to say to Chair Rodriguez, Council File 20-0718, moved by Mike Bonin, to drop all the charges, especially charges stemming from the curfew, which was eventually removed because of the unconstitutionality of it. Why haven't you moved that? It's been 6 months. Yesterday, George Gascon was sworn in. There were sweeping changes with Measure J. The people of Los Angeles have been very, very clear on this, and you guys need to listen. You need to move that motion to the floor and put it up for a vote. Those people were arrested under bogus charges, under a bogus curfew. Stop trying to shelve that motion, Monica. Bring that up at the very next meeting. That's what we want. That's why George Gascon was elected DA and why Measure J was passed. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. And just for clarification, the city attorney already waived all those fees. So it's a moot point.
Next caller ending in 2240, ending in 2240, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi. My name is Sabrina Johnson. I would like to speak on items 14, 15, and general public comment, please.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, item number 14, and I'm assuming this is going to fall on deaf ears since the chair of this committee takes more money from the LAPPL than any other council person, even more, I think, than Joey Buckets himself. But regardless, item 14, a non-monetary donation of conflict resolution training. I click into the council file, and that conflict resolution training would be provided by the LA Police Foundation. So I think that means that we'll have the police training the police, which I don't understand is how any different than how we have been doing it. And I think that the police have proven time and time again that the police are actually really bad at conflict resolution. So I don't think that the best people to train the police on conflict resolution are the police. And then item 15, just another, police getting a non-monetary donation of equipment. And, y'all are always crying about how we've already defunded the police. First of all, that's not true. We haven't actually made cuts to the police. We've made cuts that don't even set off the entire amount of the increase that the police were supposed to receive this year. So the police still have an increased budget over what they had last year. We've just made cuts to that increased budget. And then they're constantly getting these non-monetary donations. I don't understand how you can go around saying that we're going to have not enough equipment or reduced services or this or that when, you're constantly getting donations from the Police Foundation, from the LAPPL, from local businesses, from fucking popsicle dealers. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And then for my general public comment, despite the fact that Gascon just waived charges against protesters, which he said he's going to do, but it hasn't actually taken effect yet. I know all protesters have been released today because Gascon personally got involved in their case, but that doesn't mean that charges aren't currently being filed against protesters. And as it stands right now, Jamie Penn is facing a felony for trying to help an old man off the ground. Why haven't you agendized Bauman's motion? Even if it's a moot point now, it wasn't a moot point 3 days ago. You could have agendized it at any point since it was introduced. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say except how them fucking boot states, Monica.
Okay. Next caller ending in 8919. Ending in 8919. Press star 6 for me.
Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Lane, speaking on items 14, 15, general public comment.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
So on these 2 items, I just want to echo what the last caller said. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that you guys are basically doing the bidding of the police union. You're going out in the public, Joey Buckets is going and saying, oh, we're going to lose. It'll be the worst thing possible if we cut any money from them, and it's going to raise crime, and everyone's going to die, and all this fear mongering you guys are doing, and it's not true. And every time you guys have a committee, it's more shit like this: $50,000 here, $50,000 there. We know what you're doing. You get money from them to give them what they want. There's no secret about it. We all know that you're doing it. You're in their pocket. So at this point, you should just be upfront about it. Just say that you don't want people to be safe. You don't want people to not have to worry about being beaten at a protest. You don't want that. You just want to make the police happy. So why don't you just admit that and say it instead of trying to pretend like you're playing both sides and you're hearing us out? You're not. So just be honest about it. As for the motion, as for Bonham's motion, 200718, it's not about the fine. It's about we want those charges summarily dropped because they were all under the pretext of a curfew that the city got sued for. It was an absolute trampling of First Amendment rights, and we know it because the ACLU sued us for doing it, and that's why we want the charges dropped. Fines are one thing, but charges stay on people's record. It affects their chance of possibly getting jobs. It affects every facet of their life, and they didn't do anything wrong. They were out there protesting police injustice, which you guys don't give a shit about, but the majority of LA residents do. They do give a shit about that, which we've seen with Gascon's election. We've seen with Measure J passing. There was just a study put out by LMU that said that the majority of people want to divert funds from the LAPD, so you may not want it, and you and your police union buddies may not want it, but the residents of this city do, and you have to start listening to us. That's as simple as that. So I yield the rest of my time, and grow some hearts.
Thank you. And again, callers, for those calling on that item, just to reiterate, the city attorney also announced months ago that they weren't going to pursue any charges.
Caller ending in 1141, press star 6 to unmute.
Hi, caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Bisnoff. I'm chair of the Brentwood Community Council, and I'd like to speak on item number 3.
Thank you very much. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I just wanted to chime in on item number 3 and mention that the CAO's report on the defunding for $150 million does not assign any funding or any specific programs for alternate policing services. This is of concern to our community in particular because we do not see the city or the LAPD holding the County of Los Angeles responsible for their end of the financial bargain when we talk about alternative policing, particularly as it pertains to homeless outreach services, the Department of Mental Health, and the Department of Public Health. In order to obtain those types of services and alternate policing, we need to have greater funding allotted to those departments in order to take up the slack that people in the communities would like to see the LAPD stand back on in terms of alternate enforcement. Our particular community appears to be the only one in the city of Los Angeles that has been able to engage the county and get them to agree to actually meet with our police.
Your time is concluded.
Caller ending in 6068, press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, yeah, this is Richie Serdenko. I would like to speak on 2-3 in general public comment, please.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, item number 2, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of William Briggs. William Briggs is an entertainment lawyer. He conceivably or due to running any type of background check, he doesn't have any background on policing or reimagining public safety. So essentially, William Briggs is just Garcetti's friend that he's trying to usher into, his fraudulent board of police commissioners. And if you guys are just going to accept that, what are you all really doing? William Briggs has no qualifications to sit on the board of police commissions, and if he is appointed, it just goes to show what a fraud the board is. I mean, we already knew that, but appointing a entertainment lawyer to oversee the police with no experience, it's kind of like you guys. You guys don't know what you're doing. So item number 3, about the CAO report. People have been calling in to defund the police for months and months and months, right? And, we aren't even sure where that $150 million is going, the removal of the $150 million addition from last year. We are facing a $600 million deficit, and you don't want to touch the LAPD budget, and I wonder why. And it's because of things like, Monica, you get $90,000 from the LAPPL. And that's why you don't want to touch the LAPD budget, because you're in their pocket. You fell victim to their mafia tactics when they surrounded you in that hangar with 50 police officers. I would like to see one of you actually grow a backbone and stand up for the people of Los Angeles, because we were outside of the mayor's house on Sunday, and the police came across the street and attacked us. They attacked children, and they threw a 72-year-old man on the ground. That's who you give money to. And Monica, that's cool with you because you kicked it with Jamie McBride. His daughter, Tony McBride's a murderer. But you think it's cool to take $90,000 from the LAPPL and Jamie McBride. Jamie McBride has shot 5 people himself. That's who you let sit at the table instead of everyday Americans or everyday Angelinos. I think I'm running out of time. I just want to address Joe Buscaino. Buddy, we call you buckets because you're a bucket of shit. You're a piece of shit. You're a bad fucking person. Buckets, you're fucking laughing about that. Let us catch you, bro, one day. Let us catch you in person one day, because I don't think you're really about that. So I just want to say we all know what you are up to, and people that were calling to agendize that bond in motion. So what is happening to it? Jamie McBride. Fuck Jamie McBride.
Caller ending in 9936, press star 6 to unmute, ending in 9936.
Caller, please state your name and the address you'd like to speak on.
Caller ending in 8408, phone number ending in 8408, press star 6.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to speak on item 3 and general public comment.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, starting off on item 3, stop pretending that you guys cut the police budget. Like, not giving them a raise is not cutting their budget. I mean, you've been raising this budget by hundreds of millions of dollars over the past decade. And now you're going to sit around and pretend that all of a sudden, this group that's gotten an immense amount of money, more than half of the discretionary budget of our entire city, somehow can't do their job because they don't get an increase one year. If that's the case, that's a reason to defund them in and of itself. If they've built an institution that requires another $150 million every year to function and do their basic job, then they have failed. They have deeply, deeply failed. So I know we can't expect better from this committee. I know that the 5 of you are the reactionary wing of our city council. But we know what's happening. We see it. We know that the LAPPL and LAPD are going to do everything they can, and that you are going to give them the platform to do that. And we're here to tell you it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We got David Rue. We're coming for you, Joey Buckets. You are all, Mitch, you are done in this city. So we're coming for all of you. We're coming for all of you. And then for general public comment, for Mike Bonin, motion 200718. The point is, we had on Sunday LAPD violently attacking peaceful protesters. And the fact that you guys can't even agendize a motion that will show the slightest bit of solidarity and that you actually believe.
Caller with a private number, press star 6 to unmute. If you have a private number, press star 6, please.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
All items in general public comment, Mommy.
Okay, go ahead. 3 minutes.
Okay, so let's start off here. Look at number 2, William Briggs. Let's see, what's his qualification to be a police commissioner? Not a fucking thing! So we're putting another puppet into the commission for puppet LAPD. That's what you're doing. What happened, Monica, Mommy? What happened when you promised you were going to put Melina Abdullah in there? I don't see Commissioner Abdullah, do you? No, I don't see it. Now, you're just putting in another corporate fucking attorney shill scumbag into there so they can vote yes on everything. Now, fuck that. Then we get number 3, the organizational verbal report. Where is the item number on the agenda? Do you see an item number? I'm right here. I'm clicking it. You can hear it. See, I'm clicking the mouse and I got nothing. You violate the Brown Act, so we don't know what the verbal report is going to be. What about budget reduction? We're going to get rid of 974 cops. 974 less lawsuits. 974 less beaten elderly black and brown people. 974 less pensions. Let's go for 2,000 of these killers, because that's what they are. The LAPD is a trained assassin unit. Look what happened at the protests in front of the mayor's office, and they're taking there and slamming people to the ground, And that's why. And why does Mommy Monica do it? Because Mommy Monica accepted the money from the demon. Now, you want to blame Joey Bucket? Don't blame him. I mean, he's a former cop. See, he has to protect them. See, Joey Buckets wants to go with the left. He wants to join us in defunding the police, but he can't, because if he does, then they're going to go after him on the Seabreeze project. So they're blackmailing him on that, so he has to go. So, again, we're going to give Joey Buckets a pass. And then we got David Rue. Now, all you people that are saying he's a bad guy, David Rue actually a good guy, you're going to get that new scumbag in there, and you voted him out. You made a mistake. Then we get John Lee. Well, he's staffer B. The FBI already gave him a lead. Lee is B. B as in bitch. That's right. See, John Lee going to federal prison. So isn't it ironic that a public safety committee has a...
Thank you.
Next caller ending in 5436. Ending in 5436. Press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, caller, please.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on 2, 3, and general public comment.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
It's pretty amazing that sometimes you find out way more information from the people who call in to give public comment than we ever find out from the members of these committees or the city council. William Briggs is just some lawyer buddy, corporate lawyer buddy of Garcetti's. He has no qualifications. What on earth are you guys going to appoint him? I mean, the LAPD commission already has no credibility whatsoever. And here you are adding another puppet to it. It's just embarrassing. And I'm sure you guys will all vote unanimously, which just goes to further delegitimize this committee. All right, item 3, LAPD, please stop repeating the bullshit. They are not getting anything cut at present. It was just a raise, and they could have chosen to figure out an equitable way to redistribute the funds, but rather than do that, what did they do? They announced they were getting rid of the sexual assault unit to punish the people. Really professional. That's super professional of them. And I mean, everyone else has talked about it. Months and months of demonstrations and people calling in day after day after day. And none of you will listen. Even as Measure J gets passed, even as NIFIA gets voted in, you guys cannot see the rising tide here. It's really pathetic. This study came out from LMU today that said over 60% want to redistribute funds from LAPD. None of you guys have the guts to do that, though, with possible exception of Bonin and hopefully soon NIFIA. General public comment. Yes. I think it was Ricky before who said it, but Monica has taken $90,000 from LAPPL. Staffer B has also taken about $90,000. Neither one of you guys really should be allowed to vote on any of this stuff. I mean, you guys pretend it's all legitimate, it's campaign contributions, but everybody knows it's bribes. That's what it is. And Ricky was right. You guys are bought off, and that's what you're doing. Except for Buckets, he obviously has thin blue line wallpaper in his room probably. But you two are bought off, and everybody knows that, and it's pathetic. You should listen to the people. The people are speaking, and they're being very, very clear. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Caller ending in 9936, press star 6 to unmute. If you end in 9936.
Hi, caller.
Hi.
Item you'd like to speak on.
I'd like to speak on general public comment and on item 2. I hate to say this is a very rare moment where I'm agreeing with Wayne, the goat puppet, who is providing more credible support and sensibility for this agenda. The rest of the people here have spoken clearly and effectively, and when it comes to William Briggs, credibility is your biggest issue. I think that you guys, considering how many of you are or will be under review of the FBI, will potentially and probably be in federal prison, would do a bit more due diligence on who you endorse and who you choose to sue in the offices of this city. You are doing nothing to benefit the people. You are just setting up more failures and more criminals who are what we call failing upward, who don't deserve to be in the positions they are in. You need to put an emphasis on including underrepresented voices in these positions. Black people, okay? That means black people. That means black women. That means people who are unhoused. Have a board of police commissioners, at least just ask the police to have it represent the people who are most repeatedly subject to the abuse of the police. That is full circle community police improvement, not a mirror of white men who are going to continue to endorse behaviors that are going to ladder down to the most marginalized and underrepresented people of our society. Good luck being in jail in a couple years, all you guys. Make sure things are cozy and comfy for the rest of your friends when they get there in a few years. And I will yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller ending in 1403, press star 6 to unmute yourself. 1403, press star 6.
Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Joey Bucket!
Sorry, spoken.
Caller ending in 8408, press star 6 to unmute.
Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to speak on general public comment and item 2 as well, please.
Okay, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so item 2, the city council invited the People's Budget Coalition to come and present to them earlier this year and pretended to listen and pretended to support. And then offered a $150 non-cut, just not raising the police budget for 1 year, which is really, nothing. You guys offered basically nothing. Far away from what people support, far away from what people have been asking for, far away from what you actually need to do. And what you guys should be doing is looking to the people who have led the response in this city, looking to the people who you invited to come speak to you for the leadership to lead these charges. Those are the people who you should be putting on the police commission. Those are the voices that you need to uplift to make this happen. We know that this committee obviously doesn't want to do that, right? Because of all the money that all of you have taken from the LAPPL. We know that you are in their pocket, but that's what you need to be doing. That is an adequate, bare minimum response to what the people of this city have been asking you to do. And if you don't do it, we're going to vote you out. We're going to vote you out in 2022. We are watching. We see it. We see what's happening in all these meetings. We see your absolute reluctance to do anything. We have an organization in the LAPD that is refusing to participate in any sort of shared sacrifice across the city in a time of budget crisis. Refusing to offer any sort of compromise.
Thank you, caller.
While simultaneously.
Caller ending in 9955, press star 6 to unmute, ending in 9955.
Hi, caller. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Caller ending in 0899, press star 6 to unmute, ending in 0899.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Caller ending in 5436, press star 6 to unmute, ending in 5436.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, I already spoke, but yeah, listen to the.
Caller ending in 7121, press star 6, ending in 7121.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Number ending in 4526, press star 6.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Caller with the number ending in 9936, press star 6 to unmute.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, I already spoke. Please manage your technology better.
Okay.
Number ending in 4045, press star 6 to unmute.
Hi.
Hi, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
I would like to speak on all items or
Okay.
general public comment.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I watched these CAO things like earlier today, and they just keep talking about how they're running out of money, and it's really bad, and you know what to do. Please defund the LAPD. Goodbye.
Madam Chair.
My bad. I know I was on mute. My bad. Okay. So let me do that again. That concludes general public comment, colleagues. I would like to take the following items on consent and request that we continue item number 11 and approve items 1, 4 through 10, and 12 through 15. And if there are no objections or any items that you'd like to discuss, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino?
Aye.
Councilmember Rue?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you. And now that brings us to item number 2 on today's agenda.
Item 2, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Mr. William Briggs II to the Board of Police Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2024.
Thank you so much, Mr. Briggs. Thank you for hanging on with us. I know it's been a long meeting so far, and we also got a little taste of press clearance earlier. So thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Public Safety Committee. I'd like to invite you to share your background, your experience, and qualifications to serve as one of our newest appointees to the Police Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to start off. This was a good indoctrination, as I understand it, to what the Police Commission goes through, and I appreciate having spent some time here. So briefly, my background. I am a resident of Los Angeles. I grew up here. I'm one of the few people who hasn't moved from another portion of our country to Los Angeles. I actually grew up in South Central LA. And as is obvious, I'm also a black man. So having grown up in South Central Los Angeles, I had encounters with the police coming up. And I can't say that all those encounters were necessarily the ones that were, as some would say, you know, a gentle encounter with the police. But having said that, I will say this, that I went on, having had those encounters with the police, steering me in a different direction. I went to law school in Florida at a historically black college there, Bethune-Cookman College. And from there, I was fortunate enough to go to Georgetown, where I put myself through law school, attending law school in the evening and working full-time during the day. I returned to California and started my practice down in San Diego before returning to Los Angeles, my hometown, which I love. And in terms of qualifications, I've been practicing law as both a trial attorney and involved in transactional law as well, which has afforded me the ability to think critically about issues, as well as to analyze complex matters and come up with resolutions for things. In today's environment, with respect to the police, I see a couple of things are needed. One is obviously public safety. That's paramount, because I think all communities in the Los Angeles region want public safety. But along with public safety, I think everyone, including members of this committee, recognize the need for some police reform and continuing police reform. Along those lines, it's discussed in various ways. One is alternative dispatch, which means that we want not necessarily the police to respond to mental health issues, unless, of course, there's a public safety issue. But we want mental health practitioners to do so that they can help de-escalate the situation. The same with the homeless problem that we face here, which is continuing to grow. And I don't think that the LAPD wanted to be faced with that problem, nor do I think that they want to continue to be the sole agency responsible for it. And I think that along with Measure J and some other proposals that I hope to work on with the Police Commission, we can have the appropriate agency deal with a lot of our homeless issues. And then we're talking about training and tactics. I heard a number of comments today, particularly those with crowd control or protesters. I think that with respect to additional training of police officers in the tactics that they impose, particularly with respect to peaceful protesters, we can help reform what others see as problems with the police. And that leads to my final comment with respect to use of force. I think that there are additional policies that the Police Commission can recommend and should recommend that will help us move away from the use of deadly force in certain situations. Madam Chair, I yield my time. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I look forward to working with you as well as all the members of this particular committee, as well as the Police Commission, and all of the citizens of Los Angeles, who I know want both effective public safety and a partnership with the police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs, and I want to also thank you for sharing your story and your background, because it should help inform. Listen, we all have a different Los Angeles experience. For those of us that have grown up in this city, who love this city and want to help advance progress with respect to public safety, but in all areas where we can advance improvements and help improve the quality of life. I think it's really important for members of the public to understand that it is our life experience that informs who we are and helps to develop who we are and provides us with that critical lens that will evaluate, and help frame your approach to the work that you've, made this, you've accepted this nomination, and we're appreciative of it. But it's all of those collective experiences that I think are so important, particularly in a time in this country and even here in Los Angeles, where we need to really be reflective of all of those experiences and understand the interactions and the history for our city. And so this is a pivotal moment for us as we continue to advance conversations around reform, to adapt and pull back the areas that our men and women of this department have provided service in areas that they were called to serve and they were asked to serve in the absence of more appropriate responses that should have been deployed, and particularly, as you mentioned, with respect to mental health and a number of other areas as well. And that said, going into this role, what do you believe is the most crucial responsibility of this, in your role as a commissioner? To where would you identify and start?
I'm glad you asked that. I'm narrowing the issues down as I see it because I've done a lot of studying so far on some of the issues. And one of the things that I see as critical needs are community policing. I think that the gap of trust, as it were, between the police and communities of color is extremely wide right now. And I think that needs to be bridged. And I think one of the avenues of doing so is more projects that bridge that gap. And from what I've seen and studied so far, community policing is one of the projects that has proven here in Los Angeles to work, as well as around the country and in other cities, major metropolitan areas. So that's one area that I'd like to improve upon. And in doing so, what I'd like to do is to literally go out and visit all 21 divisions, as a commissioner, to get to know the folks in the departments and the divisions, as well as members of those particular communities. The next item that I see as important is part of the training and the tactics. Because I think that, more de-escalation training is needed, number one, as well as training with respect to how to respond to peaceful protesters. I think that those are critical. And there's some other things that I'm currently studying, but I want to flesh those out more before I mention them, in a public setting. But I think that broadly speaking, those are the two areas, community policing, as well as training and tactics.
Thank you. Colleagues, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Briggs, I want to thank you for volunteering your time, expertise for your appointment to this commission. We are very appreciative of it. And I would argue very strongly that as a lifelong Angelino, growing up in South Central LA, working full-time while putting yourself through law school, getting a law degree and understanding the law as well as anyone else who will be on that commission, and with your experience volunteering even on the retirement system board for the LA City employees, and then I think combined with your lived experience and your professional experience, I would argue with anyone that you're eminently qualified for this position, despite what some of the comments that we heard in the public comment period. And the fact that you are working pro bono for the Alliance for Children's Rights, I think your bona fides are solid, and I believe you're going to bring a wonderful perspective into this volunteer post. And I've spent some time at the police academy during the summer as well, observing some of the de-escalation trainings that are going on. I was very impressed, and I look forward to hearing your impressions as well. And anytime you want to visit Northeast or Hollywood or Olympic or Rampart, you let me know, because I'd love to join you there and to interact with the fine women and men representing those divisions very proudly. So I'm really thrilled to see your name here as our future new police commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Constable O'Farrell. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with Mr. O'Farrell. Thank you so much, Mr. Briggs, and good to meet you and see you virtually here, and agreeing to take on this role that is, I think we need you more than ever today, based on your background and your skills and your knowledge. And I agree with Mr. O'Farrell that I'm encouraged and inspired by hearing you wanting to get out to all 22 police stations and meet with the men and women of the LAPD who do the work day in and day out. I also encourage you to go to the police academy knowing that training and tactics is something that's important to you. And also encourage you to look at the implicit bias training that the LAPD sends its officers through. But the question I ask and give me your thoughts. Do you believe that LAPD is today the largest reformed police department in the country?
My study so far, council member, reveals to me that the Los Angeles Police Department has made major strides since the early 80s and the 90s. What I've seen so far is that under Police Chief Bratton, Police Chief Beck, they moved away from policies that some argue were extremely harmful to the black and brown communities in Los Angeles. And I think that Police Chief Moore has continued that. And this is why I am so interested in the community policing aspect, because Los Angeles implemented that in association with gang intervention, and there have been some key successes there, at least the information that I've been provided so far. And one of the things I'd like to do is build on that. There are problems throughout policing in our country today. So in answer to your question, is LA at the forefront of police reform? I would argue that it is probably the number one police agency so far at the head of police reform. I know some folks in New York would argue with that, and also New Jersey. But I think that we are right up there.
Thank you.
Is that to say that we're perfect?
No, right.
I think we have some ways to go, but that is what my studies so far have shown.
I appreciate you acknowledging that, because if you look at the consent decree and it recognizes the dark history of LAPD and turning it into the most professional police department today in the country, something that I was a part of, having served 15 years, blessed years, embracing community-based policing, which is in my DNA. I appreciate you recognizing that. And, colleagues around the country, mayors and council members through, our affiliation. I know our chairwoman here, Monica Rodriguez, chaired our National League of Cities Public Safety Committee, and Mitch is Mr. O'Farrell is very active with National League of Cities. Colleagues come to us around the country, mayors and council members, and say, what are you doing right in LAPD? We want to take a page of the Community Safety Partnership Program. We want to take a page of your Senior Lead Officer Program. So knowing that you embrace community policing is enlightening, and knowing that you're committed to bringing and embracing that faith, trust, and confidence between police officers and the community. But Mr. Briggs, that does not come cheap, right? We want the best and brightest. Community Safety Partnership is expensive. Expansion of our Senior Lead Officer Program is expensive. At the same time, there have been calls to decimate and reduce our LAPD budget. So just let that marinate a little bit. And lastly, you mentioned Measure J. The county of Los Angeles, I would say, overwhelmingly supported Measure J. Do you think the city of Los Angeles is responsible for providing social services to our residents? Is it the core function of the city of Los Angeles?
So my understanding, council member, is that it is the county's responsibility, as I understand, not necessarily the city's. Hopefully, the city will be able to work in partnership with the county and having the county provide some of those resources that have now been designated under Measure J to go towards providing some of the mental health alternate dispatch that's needed, as well as helping out with the homeless issue. In direct answer to your question, I think it's more of a county issue than the city issue.
Appreciate that response. You clearly recognize that, and I'm hopeful that you carry this narrative that as we look at alternative ways to respond to 911 calls, we should not do it at the expense of our public safety to our own LA City residents. So carry on that message, sir. And we have Measure J dollars now that can do just that. We have an ability to expand our community safety partnership program now under the direction of Deputy Chief Amada Tingridis, who we all love and respect, and a former partner of mine. So appreciate that response, appreciate that recognition. Looking forward to working with you. We are locked in step, sir. And we need you now more than ever. In light, even more so now with the LA Times article that just came out on the survey, the poll that finds that many Angelenos approve of the LAPD, but also want some funds shifted. Which again, when those funds are shifted, let's look at those Measure J funds. But what struck me in representing Watts proudly is that 30% of the African American respondents felt that they don't trust their police officers. So work still needs to be done, and I'm grateful. In Watts, we led the Community Safety Partnership Program, building faith and trust between the officers and the Watts Gang Task Force. So we welcome you to our district, like Mr. O'Farrell just did, and love to introduce you to some key stakeholders and officers who really embrace our Community Safety Partnership Program. I move the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Briggs.
I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. And that's okay with Mr. Rue, but I want to thank you and commend you for agreeing to serve in this role. It's a tremendous job. I know it's going to take up a lot of time, and they will be long meetings. But you also join a very respectable group of Angelenos that currently serve in this role, and just to underscore, yes, we always continue to work to improve our policing efforts and methodologies. If we didn't continue to strive to be better, we wouldn't be eliminating, we wouldn't have redacted even the circumstances that revealed themselves with Cal Gang. So we are always finding areas of opportunity where we need to improve. And where we find malfeasance or issues of concern, we build trust through addressing those issues. And that is our collective responsibility, and we will continue to strive in that area as well. And we look forward to working alongside with you to help fulfill that opportunity here in the city of Los Angeles. And we thank you. And with that, colleagues, I'd like to recommend the appointment of Mr. Briggs to the Board of Police Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2024. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino.
Aye.
Councilmember Rue.
Aye.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you all. I look forward to working with all of you.
Likewise. Okay. And Mr. Clerk, that brings us to item number 3, if we haven't lost. Oh, he's there.
Item 3, LAPD to present a verbal report on the operational and organizational impacts of existing and proposed budget reductions.
Thank you. Uh-oh, we got
reverb.
Okay. Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, I wanted to provide an opportunity, and Chief, we know how busy you are. These are some very challenging times, but I wanted to take an opportunity to invite you to join our colleagues to have a conversation with respect to the reports that, I think it was very important. We've seen reports in the media. We want to make sure that we have the conversation here amongst the colleagues to ask questions with respect to the proposed reorganization effort and the effort to maintain the patrol plan at full staffing levels. So I wanted to provide an opportunity. We know we're still in the midst of these ongoing conversations with respect to the budget. I know last night was a very late night, so I want to thank you for making yourself available to be here with us to talk about, again, some of the efforts in the reorganization that have been deployed thus far and what is on the horizon.
Madam Chair, thank you, and members of the committee. Appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. In talking about the reorganization and describing it, I'll provide basic first framework of which this is occurring. The department's strength approximately 1 year ago was 10,033 sworn and approximately just over 3,000 civilian personnel. The mayor's budget proposal in April of this year had us cap at essentially that number, a little below about 10,000, and then a reduction in civilian staffing and the implementation of furloughs and some capital account cuts. The budget that was imposed by the council made further reductions and an estimated about $152 million that was set aside for furloughs and alternative services or support of social programs and so forth in the future. Those cuts necessitated downsizing and a reduction in staffing of approximately 250 additional sworn personnel, so that coming this March, April, no later, we will be at 9,750 sworn personnel. Additional cuts with SIP to incentivize separations that will detail us losing about 240 civilian personnel. And of course, the furloughs, which have been deferred until January. In coming to terms with this meant that we needed to reorganize our table of organization. How were and where were people assigned in policing an organization of this size? We looked from top to bottom, and our focus was to ensure that the number of personnel being reduced would not occur from the area levels. That our focus instead would be to focus on deployments at our geographic areas and ensure that staffing for investigative resources on violent crimes were preserved. What this did require, though, was elimination and downsizing of specialized details throughout the organization. Those efforts were analyzed and research done throughout the chain of command, through all my direct reports. And we researched, contemplated, and ultimately came to terms with realigning 313 positions throughout the organization. 204 of those individuals are actual physical individuals that will be returning to one of 21 geographic areas. 32 additional personnel will leave the organization, attrit from the organization between now and the end of January. The additional 77 vacancies are currently open. Those will be wiped or removed from the authorization table so that we have, again, a 313-person reorganization, shifting resources to the geographic areas to preserve patrol staffing as well as our investigative resources. Now, this means that the following details are going to be impacted. The LA Live detail, the Safer Cities Initiative, the Mission Area, the Venice Beach detail, the Hollywood Entertainment detail, those are all resources that had dedicated above budget, if you will, assignments at my discretion. And those numbers, those have been reduced in each of those instances. LA Live, for instance, was a sergeant and 13 officers. Safer Cities and Mission Area was 8 officers. The Hollywood Entertainment District lost 40 officers. The Pacific Beach Detail was reduced by 16 officers. The University Park Task Force was reduced by 15 officers. We also reduced some specialized details or eliminated some specialized investigative resources. For instance, the sexual assault special section, robbery homicide, which is approximately 11 personnel.
Those are reassigned out to the geographic bureaus, and they'll still conduct specialized sexual assault investigations. However, they'll also have the larger work pool, if you will, or workload of additional sexual assaults. This is an opportunity to improve the efficiency with fewer investigative resources so that caseload per investigator could be protected at the area level. Additionally, the burglary special section, cargo auto theft detail, and commercial crimes, approximately 10 personnel, was disbanded. This means that those cargo thefts and those burglary specials that were historically done by Commercial Crimes Division as a specialized investigation will be shifted out to the geographic areas for investigative response and pursuit. The Animal Cruelty Task Force is actually 3 detectives. Those resources will be, those investigative responsibilities will be shifted to Animal Services Department from the LAPD. Additionally, we'll see reductions in commercial crimes on a few more, such as the art detail. Our traffic group will be reduced by 60 personnel overall. This will be a downsizing in the number of motor officers we have, as well as downsizing the number of collision investigators. Beginning the first of the year, we'll be transitioning injury and complaint of injury collisions that do not involve a crime to an online reporting status in lieu of officers responding and conducting an on-scene investigation for the persons involved. Hit and run misdemeanors that do not involve a physical injury will also be taken online in lieu of a physical response to the field. Our Metropolitan Division was also reduced an additional 60 individuals, 60 personnel. Those are coming from our crime suppression details that were expanded in 2015 to deal with an increase in violent crime, particularly in Central and South Los Angeles. Those resources that division will be downsized to the pre-2015 levels, the earlier levels that have historically supported SWAT, our K-9 unit, our equestrian unit, and then a small 2 platoons of crime suppression that will be an emergency response force for such as earthquakes, fires, floods, extraordinary events. That number earlier was doubled in size. Again, those numbers are all going to be returned back to the geographic areas. In summary, these resources, I believe, and reallocations being redirected to the field is in the best interest of public safety. They do come at a cost. There are specialized investigations that will be decentralized and sent back out to a more generalist investigator. However, I believe the first things first, and this is staffing of geographic areas, staffing our patrol units, our gang units, our narcotic and vice units, our human trafficking task force, and our other resources at the area level. Now, the process of doing this involved us sitting down with the league through existing labor agreements and doing what's called a meet and confer, which was to explain the underlying basis for these decisions. It is within my managerial authority as a general manager to make these moves, but it is also through our past labor agreements and, frankly, with good harmony, is to explain the purpose and underlying reason. Many of these people have sought these positions as lifelong engagements, endeavors to be a motor officer, endeavors to be a specialized detective in robbery homicide. And they have the right to know why is it that we're realigning them and how this reorganization impacts them, and also protecting their rights to, as they fall back into a patrol assignment or into an investigative assignment at a local level, that their seniority and their rights will be protected. That process has concluded. It concluded last week. Employees are now being notified and will have some subject to rights to appeal, but the whole effort of this will be to have all personnel transferred and in their new assignments by the end of January. In doing so, that will meet the moment where that's approximately the same time when we'll fall in anticipation to approximately 9750 on the civilian side. That is where our hiring process is today, notwithstanding the actions of today, which will further compound this engagement, will require us to go through yet another series of now evaluations as to the impact of 355 additional layoffs and 273 additional civilian layoffs. The civilian side of the house has also suffered in a sense of this reduction in workforce without yet receiving the impact of furloughs, and is requiring us to centralize some record functions and prioritize some administrative investigations over others, and frankly try to shed some of our activities and some of the workload of our civilian staff. We are currently looking at downsizing and eliminating some of our area jail operations other than the 3 regional jails that we have.
And we're also looking at taking record units that are currently in operation across 21 areas and regionalizing those and cutting those from 24-hour operations to daytime shifts with regional records on a dispersed basis, so that officers that may have to travel or may make phone calls, but they will not have access to local records at their area station as a means of marshaling and pooling our resources. So that basically concludes the attrition process, the reorganization that we've accomplished. What I look to achieve moving forward from this, without regard to the actions today by the full council, was to protect public safety, to deal with an increase in violent crime, particularly shooting violence, homicides, and shooting victims, to deal with that we've seen a increase in shooting violence involving gang homicide, as well as gang shootings, as well as an increase in homelessness-related homicides, and that with this additional number of homicides that we have today, gang homicides are up 29%, homeless victims as homicide victims are up 46%. And as we deal with that we have sufficient resources at the area level to handle calls for service and properly respond and investigate crimes of violence, that we also have sufficient investigative resources to respond to those circumstances and investigate them, while also protecting engagement. We have not shifted or moved resources away from Community Safety Partnership Bureau at this point, nor our Senior Lead Program, or our community engagement through our cadets and youth programs. Those are all been meant to be protected, because I believe that, as Commissioner Select Briggs indicated, the importance of our work in policing and building safety and trust in the city is not just response, it's not just solving crime, but it's building trust, it's building communications and engagement. And I believe that this present reorganization is meant to try to strike that balance, recognizing that these are staffing levels that we have lost more than a decade of gains from our earlier staffing. So we have downsized. We're going to meet this moment with these reorganizations, and of course we'll now, with the council actions today, begin looking at what further cuts and reductions will be necessary to deal with what has been identified as a path forward. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. So you said the increase, I didn't realize that it was the larger increase was on homeless related. What have been some of the measures, or what might be adapted to help address what the root cause or source related to some of those incidents might be?
So this year to date, we have 57 homicides that we believe are victims who were also houseless at the moment. And previously, last year, that number was 39. Additionally, what I did not identify is we've also taken and we'll be disbanding our HOPE resources, which are approximately 50 personnel across the city. Those resources will be realigned back out to geographic areas rather than one of the four deployments in each of the four geographic bureaus. The outreach and engagement, the underlying influences of violence in our homeless community is largely other individuals who are experiencing homelessness. We've also seen an uptick in gang activity in regards to the sale and distribution of narcotics. And in that sale and distribution, they're becoming disputes and disagreements and resulting violence. These are matters, these are police matters, these are serious issues. However, what we're lacking is, in my view, is countermeasures to the continued outgrowth and expansion of encampment, of the size and complexity of them. The daytime moratorium on encampments and on structures is impeding our ability and also adding to the size and challenges that these encampments form in issues of risk and safety to communities throughout Los Angeles.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, I want to go ahead. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief Moore. I'm getting a lot of reverb. Can you all hear me okay with that? Okay, good. So I don't really have a question so much as just I want to frame this ongoing conversation in the following terms. According to 2016's FBI data, in terms of police officers per 10,000 residents of major cities, New York City in 2016 had 42.3 officers per 10,000 population. Philadelphia had 40.2 police officers per 10,000. Chicago, 48 in 2018. That's their numbers from 2018 that I dug up. 48 officers per 10,000 residents. And Los Angeles has 24.6 police officers per 10,000 residents. So I think it's important to, in the conversations we're having about how we look at numbers of police officers in our neighborhoods, with the backdrop of rising crime, homicides, shots fired, gang activity. That's one piece of the context I'd like to offer, but I'd like to offer another piece of the context. And that is, like many of you, I was around, an LA resident in the 80s and 90s when crime was triple or quadruple to what it is now. And so I think it's important that in this new context where we definitely appreciate the calls for dismantling the racial inequalities and inequities in all government agencies, that we keep in mind what's at stake in terms of public safety in general. And what we do moving forward as it relates to the budget deficit and the hard, difficult calls we have to make in terms of the budget, it's important that we keep all of these factors in context. Look at the crime data over past decades of any major city, and crime rises and declines depending on the dynamics of the era. Let's make sure that whatever we do in this moment, this very, very strong moment of inflection, that we don't end up making decisions where we see the crime rate continuing to rise in double digits in a matter of months, and what this city could look like in a few short years if we get this wrong. It's just important as we have these discussions to keep all of that in mind. And as someone who lived through the high crime 80s and 90s in Los Angeles, that is not lost on me. And I think a lot of folks may not have that experience or lived through that, what that was like. And like many of you, I could give really amazing examples of bold crimes that took place in broad daylight. So we want to make sure that we keep all of these realities in mind as these very serious conversations and discussions about what public safety looks like moving forward. Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Bufano.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief Moore. Appreciate your leadership under these times. I don't even know what to call them these days. Also, want to express on behalf of my family and my district condolences, the loss of Sergeant Cueto. Our chairwoman adjourned in his memory today at the conclusion of City Council meeting. Chief, you and I go way back as well. We clearly know through our lived experiences, through patrolling the streets of the city of Los Angeles, and I'm going to try not to have my blood pressure rise here, that with fewer cops, expect more crime. Policing 101. Would you agree?
Cops count. Their police work matters. These reductions that we've embarked on this year in this current effort are troubling. We're trying to find alternative services. Those alternative services aren't being developed quickly enough or anywhere near scale. And yet the baton we've been asked to hand the baton off, and there's frankly no one out there yet to receive it, or very few. So the challenges out here, public safety can improve with what's been imagined, but it can't be improved by imagination. And that's what we got right now.
Right. And I'm thankful for Mr. O'Farrell, who recognized that, other big cities have more police officers. It seems like our motto is no longer
to protect and to serve, but doing more with less at the expense of increased response times, at the expense of nearly over 300 souls losing their lives to violent crime and homicides and murders. We really need to prioritize what's important in this city. And yes, we do need more social services. Absolutely. We all agree on this committee. But that's not our core mission. That's the county's core mission. And let's continue to partner with the county. 57, how many homeless people got killed this year? You say 57? And thank you for recognizing the fact that with these huge encampments, the fact that we haven't even cleaned these encampments in months is a magnet for continued violent crime, gang affiliation, the fact that there's dope coming in and out of these massive encampments. Colleagues, I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about doing more with less. When our constituents, when they call 911, they expect the police department to show in a timely manner. So, Chief Moore, I share your frustrations. I've heard them. I've seen them. That, today was really, it was struggling. The fact that, yes, we have now over maybe 400 layoffs. And I will not support that. Even if it's on the table, I won't even support that. What are your thoughts on finding ways? I mean, New York City, they got their own Department of Transportation as part of their police department, correct? So how do we find ways, as we know, and Commissioner-elect Briggs just indicated that he supports community-based policing, but that's not cheap, as I told him. That's expensive. How do we find ways to grow the pie? What are your thoughts? Something that I've supported early on in my days as sitting in roll call as a senior lead. I wish that I had traffic enforcement with me in roll call. Thoughts of merging the Department of Transportation, the traffic officers, with the Los Angeles Police Department, as they do in New York City, and those revenues from the citations come into the police department. What are your thoughts on that? We got to think outside the box here.
So, Department of Transportation used to be a member of this organization previous to 1978. It was civilianized at that point as a means of efficiency. I think it is a more efficient model for civilian members of the city to do traffic control in the sense of parking citations, directing traffic, rather than full-bodied or fully equipped and trained and expense police officers. What I'm disappointed in is that the investigation of traffic collisions will go on to an online basis. That's really a desire of this council, was that traffic collisions be done and investigated by someone other than the department, as well as traffic enforcement. And there's a motion by Councilman Price and Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson, and I'm asked on a regular basis as a status of that. And it is, to this point, the general manager of DOT has expressed no interest or have present staffing capabilities to take on the responsibilities. The reality of this is that moving communications or moving anything towards the police department at this point, I believe the public wants to see alternative services. We need to build as a city alternative services, and we need to build them so that we can transfer calls, public genuine asks for public assistance. We can transfer them to other agencies. We've already begun that. There's a report that will be coming to you. It was approved through City Police Commission today. That's identifying that we are now sending to 211, 311, and Crime Stoppers calls that previously were being handled by the department and a response call. And the reason for that is I believe that our resources have to be preserved and that we do need to rely on 211 and 311 services for matters that the public has become accustomed to having officers respond to and handle.
Oh, trust me, I know.
So we will and continue to aggressively, and I'll look to the support of this committee and the council in support of that offloading of those so that we can prioritize. Let me just transition. The proposal, what I have before you today is adjusting to the downsizing of this organization that was a part of the July 1 budget for this fiscal year. The additional reduction of 355 sworn and 273 civilians will require shutting down as many as 3 stations, downsizing our jail operations by shutting down area jails in addition to, likely additional to more than what we have to do this year, which could mean actually the elimination of one of our 3 regional jails, as well as a reduction of technical services involving forensic science, records, administrative services, and the jeopardizing some reforms in a sense of our oversight and our ability to monitor compliance to various requirements as far as police operations. We simply will not have the staffing to do a number of these police audits and police inspections. So those are matters now that as of today, I directed us to begin researching, just as we did back in June and July with the adoption of this year's budget, to identify a plan and to identify what those curtailments of services will be as we move towards that as a potential, and that matter will be brought obviously back before this committee as well as for the full council as it makes decision as to what are the priorities of this city. Rather, I'm going to go back down my earlier remarks on this. I think my remarks have been heard multiple times. I just need to I'll rest on the record of what my position is regarding these cuts.
Well, and one of those cuts, something that's alarming to us here in Council District 15, and on behalf of my residents and businesses, we've demanded the reopening of the Harbor Jail. Because prior to the reopening, and thank you for your commitment, you carried that across the finish line, because we found our officers spending time transporting arrestees, detainees, down to 77 jail, removing them out of the field. And yet there's a threat now, based on a cut to LAPD, of shutting that down again. You mentioned that in committee last night. And that's not fair for residents in Hollywood, down at the Harbor, in Van Nuys. So again, colleagues, we have to ask ourselves, what are our priorities as it relates to public safety? Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Bustano. Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chief Moore, I just wanted to quickly say, thank you. It's been such a pleasure working with you. You have been so responsive to my office and all of Council District 4's needs. And, and not just now as Chief, but back as Assistant Chief. I think you were the first one. You came out to meet with me wherever I was. And you were very responsive back then as well. And I really thank you for your service. And, it's a really bad time, as my colleagues have stated. The choices before you is bad or worse. And I am very thankful as the outgoing council member and also as an Angelino that you are focusing on patrols. Like I said, there's everything is in need, but that is your geographic focus, and patrols is something that I'm glad that you are trying to preserve as much as you can. And I just got to say, there is no one more right for the job than you right now. You know every nook and cranny of the police department. You know where to look. You've served in every single level. So I feel confident that in this bad time, where, like I said, you have choices between bad and worse, you will try to do the best that you can to make these difficult choices. And I also want to applaud your commitment to transforming the police department to the 21st century. But like you, I am concerned. Because I believe in transforming the police department, like all of my colleagues, but we can't put the cart before the horse. The fact that our alternative services that we all talked about is not yet in place. And while I agree with what you said and what many of my colleagues said about shifting the responsibilities of the police to an alternative division, that division needs to be created as soon as possible. And cutting before that is set is a dangerous precedent. So, but again, I just wanted to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure working with you.
Councilman, I don't know if this is
goodbyes, but certainly I recognize the end of the term's coming up, and I want to thank you as well. Your leadership, your service to your district, and actually to the entire city. I do appreciate the support, the partnership on a number of different issues. There are times, including today, that we differ on votes that you may make, but I do know that your heart is in support of the city, and I thank you for that dedication. Being a public servant in today's day and time is difficult. It's a turbulent environment, and getting into that as you have, I thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank
you, Madam Chair. Quickly, and one last question that I failed to ask. Mr. Bonner and I, a couple years back, we supported the basic area car study, studying the boundaries of our existing basic car area. That was part of Mr. Bonner's 10-point plan to get more cops on the street. Where are we at on that? Or maybe Ms. Rodriguez, if you can help maybe shepherd that push here within this committee, or I'd like to get an update from Chief Moore. I don't know if you're ready to respond to that. If not, we can talk offline. I'll defer to the council chair. I mean, I have a status, but I'll actually defer to her if she's briefed on it.
No, yeah, happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the study called the Matrix, it's a consultant organization that was employed by the CAO, as you said, Councilman Busquiano, was at the direction of funded by Councilman Bonner and others to look at the deployment of the organization. The earlier reports that came back were significantly flawed as to the methodology, but the overarching findings of it I supported. The overarching findings were that we need to, as a city, deepen our representation amongst of senior leads, that the 168 senior leads that we have as an organization were insufficient for a city of this size and complexity, and that it encouraged us to increase those by, I think it was an additional 40, which I support. I supported it then. I don't know how I can support it now. I'll also say that it made some other proposals, though, about downsizing our gang units, which I did not agree with. But overall, the largest issue it had was with our patrol plan, or how we go about recognizing workload. And I think that their research was a bit flawed. So we're working with the CAO, and our deployment under Chief Arcos and his back office, his deployment folks, are working with the CAO and the consultant for them to go back and make ensure that their calculations are consistent with our methodology, and if our methodology is flawed, that they can articulate the basis for it. So there's a little bit of back and forth of that right now, but it goes to earlier conversation of Councilman O'Farrell, talking about the number of officers per square mile or per capita. Los Angeles Police Department is at 24.6. He's absolutely correct. The average of major cities across the country is 25. But when you look at those major cities, they don't span 465 square miles, and they don't span 4 million people. They span, when you talk about the major cities across the country, they're 500, 600,000 people, maybe a million. And so the mechanism that we have, when you look at the larger cities, such as Philadelphia, Houston, Chicago, New York, they have a higher density of officers per square mile, and they allow us to have a better level of neighborhood-based policing. The study that you saw today, just in brief from LMU, I want all of Angelinos to look at. Its findings are really pretty good. They say that, by and large, the public trusts policing more than it does elected officials and more than it does the media. It says it trusts its neighbors more, but it trusts policing more than those other two major institutions, including government service. The other thing it said is that while it does not trust policing overall to the level that it should, it likes its local cop. It believes in community policing, and it believes it needs more of that. And so what that tells me is we need to invest in Community Safety Partnership Bureau. We need to invest in our local micro neighborhood deployments with outreach engagement by senior leads and others, so that they can build trust in those communities, and we can better inform and keep informed our neighborhoods as to what our efforts are. Many times people will see a police officer many times people will see a police officer in a neighborhood and wonder what's going on. We want them to see a police officer in a neighborhood and say, I know who that guy is. I know who that officer is, who that woman is, and they're here to help. And they're here to help and support me. So residents support community policing. They do want alternative services, but they also want a police department, and they want us to work with them to build trust. And it's my commitment that we're going to do just that as we move forward, despite the headwinds. And I've not been very positive since Friday on the challenges before us and what's been put. The cuts that have been asked for this organization. I'm significantly very, very concerned about it. But my commitment is that we're going to have open and transparent conversations about it, and we're going to work together for the good of the city. And I look forward to doing that.
I would love to expand the senior lead officer program ×2, but again, that's expensive. And I'm reminded, Chief Moore, and I'm hopeful that more police officers live in their own communities. In my entry-level oral examination, they asked me, why do I want to be a police officer? And I said, to come back to my own hometown and patrol the streets where I live and raise my family. And the greatest experience was being that senior lead officer for the city and for my hometown of San Pedro. And just last night, Fox 11 News, one of its heroes, they recognized Nick Ferrara, an acting senior lead officer in Wilmington. There's actually a community-wide petition demanding that he remains there as its senior lead officer. Where do you see that happening? Let's focus on that program, aside from CSP, expansion of the senior lead officer program. But again, Madam Chair, as we know, that's not cheap. And that's the way we continue to build that faith, trust, and confidence between our police officers and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Busano. And I think just to underscore that point is every officer presents that opportunity to engage with the community in that very same manner. It doesn't require a title. It doesn't require, it's the duty and the responsibility that comes with the job. And I'm privileged to know many who approach their role with that same level of intention. And that's what it's about. So I want to be clear about what my expectations are of everyone in that positive engagement. Chief, and you remember this when we had the conversation with respect to CSP and memorializing, everybody from Chief T coming back and Chief Beck, and we were having that conversation. We talk about the alchemy of an organization in that everyone understands that the touch and the responsibility that they have is going to create an impression. And it's important that everyone, and it stems in this entire city family. I don't care if you're a sanitation worker. I don't care if you're a field deputy. Everyone has the opportunity to make positive contact with members of our community to engender the trust that they deserve. Because that is the obligation of the duty and the responsibility and the duty that each of us hold in these jobs. And I want to make sure that we amplify that, because in absence of the resources to do that, I want to remind everybody that each of us is presented with the opportunity to serve in that role. And that is the duty and the honor and the privilege that comes whether you wear a badge or you were offered one when you became an elected official, or you serve in the duty of working on behalf of that elected official in the community. That is the privilege of these jobs. And so, Chief, I want to thank you for your diligence. I know we've engaged a lot offline, just in the midst of a very busy summer, challenging time. I know that we all have to continue to evolve in our roles, given the circumstances and the economics of what this pandemic has presented us. And I want to thank you for your thoughtfulness in approaching this. But I want to make sure that you recognize that there's an opportunity for us to continue to engage in this manner here, to have these conversations with members of this committee who support the work. I continue to make sure that we advance in a positive direction and have difficult conversations when we need to have them. So, with that, colleagues, I don't know if there's any additional questions.
The only thing I would ask is, in an interest of transparency,
is the committee satisfied? I've laid out some potential cuts and reductions in services and access points to the department that I envision with an effort to build layoff lists and account for the reduction of what the council's actions were today. Is there anything else I can provide to you to help you understand that?
The only other question I would actually have that I hadn't asked yet was the potential impact to the MTA contract.
So thank you. So currently we are still under a year-to-year contract. I believe it's got 2 or 3 more years left in there. The impact so far of the pandemic has been devastating to MTA's, their own budget. They have responded to that, as well as the circumstance of decreased passenger loads, by reducing the number of our shifts and deployments. We have approximately 100 line personnel that are assigned to MTA on a full-time basis, meaning that they're budgeted. So of the 9,833 people that we have right now, 100 of them are actually funded by the MTA and assigned to the MTA. And there's a full cost recovery on those. Additionally, there are overtime shifts that are ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week across the city, more than 100 of those that are fully paid for by the MTA. That is a reduction from what was earlier, say a year ago at this time, when passenger loads were much higher. The side benefit the department and the city sees from that is that we have those additional 100 shifts of police personnel that are on buses and rails. But that so far is separate and apart from the current fiscal crisis that the city and the department are going through and the downsizing of the organization. There's been some retraction, but it has not been as a result of the city's budget, but rather just curtailing service because of passenger loads and the fiscal crisis that the MTA also is experiencing.
Thank you for that. Well, thank you, Chief. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you. Get some rest.
Always.
Take care. Colleagues, that concludes our last meeting for 2020 for the Public Safety Committee. I want to thank you all. It's been a very challenging year. This is a committee that has been thrust into the forefront of some very difficult times, and I just appreciate serving with you all on this committee. Mr. Rue, I know this is your final committee meeting, and as a colleague and a friend, I want to thank you for your thoughtfulness and your approach and your perspective. We will absolutely miss you. And you've been my seatmate for the last 3.5-ish years, and I'm gonna really miss you. And I wish you the best always. And with that, colleagues, I want to wish you a very safe and happy holidays, and our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.